This is the Bloodborne Pathogens BBP video training. In this training, we're going to cover routes of entry, signs and labels, exposures, and hazards. Let's begin with routes of entry. So how do bloodborne pathogens, BBPs, or viruses enter your body? Well, there are a number of ways this can happen, but the most common ways they enter the body are through non-intact skin, anytime the skin barrier is compromised with a cut, for example, mucous membranes, and through contaminated, sharp exposures. For the skin, they can enter through burns, scrapes, cuts, abrasions, or any other openings, even from shaving or rashes. Mucous membranes are a primary path for pathogens to enter your body. These include your eyes, nose, and mouth. How easy is it for transmission or entry of the pathogen to occur? Really easy. By simply touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. You might have something on your skin and then rub your eyes. It's a very common way of infecting ourselves with a lot of things. This reinforces the requirement to wash your hands regularly when in the workplace. Washing your hands is the easiest way to minimize your chances of moving these pathogens or viruses around, especially into your body. And don't forget inhalation. Pathogenic materials can become airborne, and in some procedures can be inhaled and enter the body through the lungs. It is standard practice for employers to tell employees about hazards in the workplace. This includes clear and easy to read signs and labels. Containers used for any biohazardous materials must always be labeled and should show the universal biohazard symbol, which most of the general public is familiar with. The symbol itself must look like this. It must be colored fluorescent orange or orange-red, and must clearly display the word biohazard. You can't remove signs and labels because you think the room will look nicer. And if the print or graphics start to fade or peel away, then the sign or label will need to be replaced with a new one. Exposure is very important in the workplace as well as any environment. It is crucial to understand when and how exposure can be harmful. There are two kinds of exposure, acute and chronic. Acute exposure is when a brief or single contact with an infectious substance affects you in some way. These effects can be very different depending on the type of infectious material and the amount or dose to which you are exposed. Some acute effects are not reversible. The pathogen will do exactly what it's going to do in your body no matter how little time you were exposed. Chronic exposure happens when you have the potential for exposure to an infectious material, repeatedly or over a long period of time. These exposures involve repeated contact with the same person, different patients who might have a disease, or simply being around a harmful material day after day. What is a hazard? A hazard can be anything that can injure or place you or anyone under your direction in danger. It can be as a result of your actions or those of someone else. And it can happen as a result of contact with any potentially infectious substance, machinery, or chemicals. Personal habits and Mother Nature can be hazards. In a healthcare facility, you have to protect yourself. Recognize what and where the dangers are. You don't want to be injured, become ill, or endanger your life in any way. But in your work, it's materials and fluids that can contain bloodborne pathogens that are the biggest concern. For example, there are infections and diseases that can affect the central nervous system. They can cause damage to the liver or kidney, or affect the blood system. And it's not just blood that does this. Other fluids, and even tissues or pieces of skin that may fall away from someone who is infected, can be very dangerous. Many fluids like synovial fluid, amniotic fluid, saliva and dental procedures, pericardial fluid, peritoneal fluid, and body fluids visibly contaminated with blood, and body fluids in solutions where it is impossible to tell. These examples, equally as dangerous as blood itself, are known as OPIM, other potentially infectious materials. The list is endless. Watch any show about forensic crime investigation and see how they find clues and answers. You never know what tiny contact a criminal makes with the victim that gives them away. This completes the video training for bloodborne pathogens, or BBPs. We covered routes of entry, signs and labels, exposures, and hazards. Remember to keep in mind your safety in the workplace as well as that of your coworkers.